Welcome to Breakroombets, the channel dedicated to the sports talk that you have around the water cooler at work. But in our break room, we're always looking at this from the betting angle. I'm your host, Miles, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you the strategy that I use to set my daily fantasy lineups and give myself the upper hand in fantasy football leagues in a segment we're calling Sportsbook Sleepers. The books give you so much information about each game. It's about knowing what information can correlate to what positions to help give you that edge in your league. First thing we're going to do is look at the point totals for each game. We're then going to use the spread to figure out what is the implied score. And when it comes to picking quarterbacks, kickers, and defenses, some of these strategies have really helped me out over the years, especially in daily fantasy sports, or if you're looking to replace someone on a bye week or need someone off the waiver wires. Let's take a look at the week 1 games. Since this video is coming out Friday morning, we left the Thursday night game off, but here's all the other totals for Sunday and Monday. So now that we have all the totals, here's how we figure out the implied score. Let's look at the Texans at Saints. The total is 52.5. I love the over, and this is actually my best bet of the week. Make sure to check out our videos each week giving you our picks. But to find out the implied score, we know the total is going to be 52.5, and the Saints are favored by 7. So the book's telling us they would have the implied score is 22.75 to 29.75. So here's the implied score for every game on Sunday or Monday. As a reminder, we're using the lines as of Thursday, so these are subject to change come game time. But now that we have all this information, you're probably thinking, what do we do with it? Well, like we said, for quarterbacks, kickers, and defenses, these strategies work the best. Let's go ahead and take a look at quarterbacks first. For daily fantasy, I want to target games that have a road dog with an implied score of 22 or more and a home favorite with an implied score of 26 or more. These are the games that are the most likely to turn into a shootout, and the more points, the more fantasy points. So what games fit that criteria this week? Here's all your road dogs with 22 or more. And 3 of them feature a home favorite with an implied score greater than 26. Now, I did bet on all 3 of these games. I took the over in the Saints-Texans and the Niners-Bucks. So, of course, I love Jimmy Garoppolo as the best value play in daily fantasy this week. And Deshaun Watson will probably put up video game numbers in a shootout in New Orleans. When it comes to picking wide receivers, I usually go off of whatever quarterbacks I like, taking one of their targets. This week, I like Dante Pettis and Will Fuller. Both of these wide receivers are outside of ESPN's top 30, and you can get them relatively cheap in daily fantasy. Like many of you, I'm in multiple leagues. The league I have Fuller in, I'm starting him. The league I have Pettis in, I'm starting him. Next, let's talk about kickers. The strategy I'm about to share with you is the reason that I'm still mad you no longer have to pick a kicker in FanDuel. The implied total is everything for a kicker. The higher the implied total, the better the kicker is. As long as the implied total for the team is over 26, they're great value. They do have to be the favorite, and when possible, I prefer the home favorite. So for week 1, Will Lutz is my favorite kicker. I drafted him in one league just because of this strategy so I could play him this week, and it's pretty often that New Orleans is up there amongst the highest point totals. In my other 2 leagues, I'm playing Jason Myers from the Seattle Seahawks. He also would most likely be relatively cheap if they still made you pick one in daily fantasy, and I would have been all about him this week in FanDuel. Here's all the other kickers, though, that have an implied total over than 26. I highly recommend you play one of these kickers if they're still available in your league. Next, let's talk about the strategies on how to use the information from the sportsbook to pick your defense in fantasy football. It's kind of the opposite strategy of the kicker. The opponent's implied score is everything. The lower the implied score, the more I like that defense. And whenever possible, road favorites do better than home favorites in this category. So the team that I like the most this week and the defense I drafted in all 3 leagues was the Baltimore Ravens. I expect them to have a huge fantasy day in Miami. the team with the lowest implied total, and they're huge favorites. So Miami's going to take a lot of risk, get more sacks and interceptions, and that's what scores the most points. But the Ravens are the most expensive defense in FanDuel this week. So in daily fantasy, I'm buying more stock in the Denver Broncos. If you've seen our other videos, you know I do not like the Broncos this season. I think they'll have a terrible year, but a great week one. So I've got some daily fantasy stock in the Denver Broncos. The other teams that I would entertain taking in daily fantasy are the home favorites where the other team's implied total is less than 20. Now let's recap the strategies that we talked about in this video. For quarterbacks, we're targeting games where the road dog has an implied total of 22 or more and the home favorite has an implied total of 26 or more. We like the wide receivers or tight ends that come from those games, but make sure they're getting enough targets and they have the ability to catch a touchdown. The position that the sportsbook information doesn't correlate with as well is picking running backs, because ultimately that comes down to volume. How many touches do you get? And a lot of it comes down to the game flow. Are you a team that's up big early and you're going to run the ball so many times? You do like the favorites more in that, but there's not as great of correlation as there is with positions like the kicker, where the more implied points, the better. Home favorites are preferred. And for defenses, it's all about that opponent's implied total, and we love the road favorites whenever we can get them. Thanks for watching this video. Let us know what you think of our strategies and sleepers in the comment section below. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. And look out every week for our videos on our best bet and our sportsbook sleepers. My break's almost up, so I've got to get back to work, but I can't wait to see you next week in the break room.